Hi all, I'm Ritvik Moghe from Swiggy Data Science team, and I'll be presenting our work on the machine learning based batching prediction system for food delivery business. To start off, we'll go into what batching actually means in a food delivery platform. Batching is nothing but two or more orders being delivered by a single delivery partner. As could be seen in this illustration, order 1 and order 2 are both picked up by a single delivery partner. The delivery partner first delivers an order to the first customer, customer 1, and then travels to the second customer's location to drop off her order. There are several advantages of batching. The first one is that it handles load at peak hours. If there are many more orders in the system than the availability of delivery partners, then batching kind of allows us to meet or service a lot of those orders without excessively scaling the number of delivery partners. It also leads to a better utilization and payout for delivery partners. It reduces the number of kilometers ridden by the delivery partner, and this leads to a reduction in the cost per delivery. And it also has several environmental benefits because we are effectively reducing the carbon footprint. There's one major drawback of batching though, which is that there are chances of an order getting delayed because of batching. This might be due to two reasons. One is that the delivery partner needs to wait for both the orders to get ready before starting the delivery to either of the customers. Second is that there's additional travel time from customer 1 to customer 2, which might lead to a delay for the customer 2. Now, what do we exactly mean when we say delay? The delay is kind of structured around a time estimate that we show to the customer before she places the order, before she makes the final payment. As you can see in the screenshot over here for this particular order, the time estimate is 38 minutes. This is effectively a promise that Swiggy is making to the customer that, hey, we'll deliver your order within 38 minutes. Delays beyond these promises or beyond these estimated delivery times lead to poor customer experience. Now, the delivery time predictions, as you can see here, are made before the order is placed by the customer, but the algorithm which decides whether the order would be batched or not runs after the order has been placed by the customer. So while making the time predictions, while coming up with this estimate of 38 minutes, we are unaware if this particular order would be batched in the future. And as seen earlier, batching could lead to delays in delivery. As such, a time prediction algorithm should be influenced by an order's propensity to batching in order to ensure that we make right time predictions if the probability of propensity to batching is high. So the batching prediction system that we are proposing in this presentation in this paper revolves around this concept, trying to predict the propensity of batching for each order before the order is placed, and then trying to come up with the right buffer value to be added to this original estimate, in this case 38 minutes, so as to reduce the probability of there being a delay. Before we get into it, we'll just go through some of the basic terms used throughout the presentation. The first is batching, as we have seen earlier. SLA or service level agreement is the estimated delivery time shown to the customer before she places the order. So in the earlier slide, SLA was 38 minutes. O2D or order to deliver time is the actual time taken to deliver the order to the customer. Now, if the actual time taken is more than the SLA, then we'd effectively be delaying the order or we'd be leading to a bad customer experience. This is captured by compliance. An order is said to be compliant if it is delivered before the predicted delivery time, and a percentage of such orders is captured by the metric compliance. The last metric is the C2O conversion metric, which tries to look at the percentage of orders which are finally placed from among all the people who come to the payment page or all the cards which are created. So now we get to the batching prediction system. Here you see the order is at cart. Go back to basically the order is at this stage, wherein the customer is seeing an estimated delivery time. So the first stage of the batching prediction system is to run a model which predicts if the probability of batching is high. So this is the probability of batching model. It is a classification model which predicts if the probability of batching for each order. And this is done before the customer makes the payment, so before the order is actually placed by the customer. If the probability of batching is not high, then we don't really make any drastic change to the algorithm. We run our time prediction models, we get an SLA prediction, and we show that SLA prediction to the customer. And then she either completes the payment or does not, and places the order, or does not, and the order flow continues. If the probability of batching is high, however, then this kind of usually leads to delays beyond original SLA estimates, because batching itself leads to delays on an average beyond original SLA estimates. So to capture these delays, we add a buffer on top of the original SLA predictions. This buffer is also derived from a machine learning model, which is the buffer prediction model. Buffer prediction model tries to predict the right buffer to be added to the SLA. Now we look at the first of the two main machine learning models, the probability of batching model, which tries to get a probability of batching for each order before it is placed by the customer. So this to kind of build a model for this particular problem, then we kind of need to look at in what ways an order could get batched with another order. So there are two ways. One is that the order could be batched with a future order, wherein the order is, let's say, an order comes in right now, and it is batched with an order which was placed after this order was placed. The second type is that the order is batched with a past order. So the order basically gets batched with an earlier order which was already being prepared at the restaurant. And a reason for distinguishing these two types of orders with which an order could get batched is to kind of come up with different predictor variables which try to capture these two behaviors. So to capture batching with past orders, we first need to look at certain set of constraints which are placed on batching. So these are constraints which are implemented by Swiggy in order to ensure that the customer experience is not bad. And they're very intuitive constraints. An order is two orders are not batched if distance between the two customer locations is high. They are not batched if the delivery time estimates, the original delivery time estimates for the two orders are high. And also if the gap between the predicted food ready times for the two orders is high. So we build variables to capture each of these constraints. Then there are variables to capture batching with future orders. These include demand prediction variables. So we basically estimate the number of orders at the restaurant customer locality and their combinations in the next 10 minutes. We also look at historical features. So historical fraction of batched orders at a particular customer restaurant locality. And then there are a third type of variables, which are order specific variables. So variables like the predicted order preparation time, or if the order has some specific item level constraints, like say it has some specific items like cake, which are traditionally not batched. So all of these variables go into a random forest classifier, and we predict a probability of batching based on all of these three types of variables. The next model that we look at is the buffer prediction model, which tries to predict the right buffer to be added if the probability of batching is high. So what we're effectively trying to capture is the delay cost due to batching. So the label is defined in two cases. If this delay caused due to batching is positive, then the label is equal to delay is equal to the O2D minus the original SLA. And if there is no delay, if the delay is not present, then the label is equal to 0. This, however, leads to an interesting distribution of the variable, wherein we see a high prevalence of zeros in the label. This is because for all the orders which were delivered before the original predicted SLA, the label is 0. And this distribution of the label sort of requires us to look at different modeling approaches. So the first approach that we look at is simple regression. The predictions from a simple regression, however, are not able to capture the prevalence of high zeros, as you can see by the distribution of the predictions. The second approach that we look at is the two-stage model approach. This approach is specifically geared towards capturing a high zero prevalence data. How it does that is by using two stages. In the first stage, we have a two-class classification model, which would predict if the buffer is 0 or non-zero. The second stage, we have a regression model, which predicts the actual buffer value, and it is trained only on the non-zero label data. These two stages are combined as follows. If stage 1 predicts 0 buffer class, then our final prediction is 0. And if stage 1 predicts non-zero buffer class, then our final prediction is whatever buffer value was predicted by the second stage regression model. And as you can see by the distribution, the two-stage model is much better at capturing the zero bias of the data than the simple regression model. It also has a much better performance as compared to simple regression, both in terms of ME as well as the F-score for the zero versus non-zero classification. Now that we have built the two models, we kind of run an experiment to figure out if this entire system leads to a positive impact. So the success metric, or the metric that should improve because of the BPS system, is compliance for batched orders. Compliance reflects the percentage of orders which are delivered before promise time. And since the model increases the promise time on an average, compliance is bound to improve. The check metric is the metric that should not degrade because of the system, because of BPS. The check metric in this case is the conversion. So since the model increases the average promise time shown to the customer, one possible disadvantage is that the customer might be deterred from placing the order due to high delivery time estimates. The proposed system should be such that it should not lead to a significant drop in C2. So effectively, this check metric kind of ensures that we don't make SLAs too high, that we make the right prediction for SLA. The way the experiment is set up is that it's a randomized A/B experiment. Tests and control groups are derived by randomly splitting all the users into two groups. The test orders are such that BPS was utilized. So whenever the batching prediction system predicted a non-zero buffer, it was added to the SLA and revised SLA was shown to the customer. This wasn't the case for control orders. Irrespective of what the output of the batching prediction system was, no change was made in the original SLA for the control orders. As expected, there was a statistically significant improvement in compliance of batched orders, about 5.5% to be precise. Analyzing the impact of the experiment on check metric was a bit more involved, a bit more interesting rather. So increase in, as we have seen earlier, increase in SLA shown to the customer is expected to cause a decline in conversion. And we also need to ensure that the decline in conversion is not significant. So based on the input from our business teams, 0.5% was the maximum permissible drop in conversion due to the batching prediction system. And our hypothesis test was for him to capture this maximum permissible drop. So a null hypothesis was that BPS leads to a 0.5 decline in conversion, and the alternate was that the decline in conversion caused by BPS is less than 0.5%. So if we can reject the null hypothesis for the alternate hypothesis, we would be sure, statistically sure, that BPS does not lead to a significant loss in conversion, or rather does not lead to a 0.5% loss or more than 0.5% loss in conversion. So in running this particular hypothesis test, we observed that indeed the drop in conversion was not significant, was not greater than 0.5%. Thank you for the presentation. I think we'll take the questions later on.